Hello, my name is John Jacob, and a major issue in the world today is video game violence and whether it is leading to real-world violence. My major is video game design and development, and I feel very strongly about this topic because this issue can have serious repercussions to my future career. Video game violence has been connected to several mass shootings over the years. It was reported that Adam Lanza, who killed 26 people in Newton, Connecticut, was an avid Call of Duty player. Another incident was the Naval Yard shooting in Washington, D.C. Aaron Alexis, who killed 13 people, was also reported to be an avid Call of Duty player. According to friends, Aaron was seen playing violent video games up to 16 hours at a time. But the real question is whether the game influenced the behavior and violent acts that have been reported, or are these actions of a select few disturbed individuals. Violent video games have been around for years. I myself have been a video game enthusiast my whole life. I have played all types of games, ranging from games that have very make-believe violence, all the way to games that portray more realistic violence. And I have never in my life been caused to do violent acts because of video games. The violence in a video game is not a contributing factor in the violent acts of a few deranged people. The popularity of first-person shooters such as Call of Duty is immense. Given that first-person shooters represent a $5 billion market played by millions of people every day, it is absurd to think that with those kinds of numbers, there wouldn't be a significantly larger amount of violent acts in a video game if a video game was a major contributing factor. Scientists have been trying to come up with answers to this debate, with answers being very inconclusive. Some researchers argue that video games like first-person shooters indeed influence violent behavior, not causing it in some simple linear way, but making it more likely to occur. Other researchers say this link does not exist. To come up with a solution to violent behavior is very good. But to blame video games that have been around for generations isn't the answer. And even if it was the cause, it is impossible to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Before looking at the science, we have to look at what it would take to conduct the right type of study in order to come up with a conclusive answer to this ongoing debate. Scientists would have to take several million people, from children up to adults, divide them into a variety of different groups with several different comparable profiles, setting them to play violent games with different amounts of regularity. Then they would have to follow them for years, conducting psychological tests on a routine basis, while tracking their real-world behavior. Such an experiment would be very revealing. It also would be an experiment that no one has nor will ever carry out. The challenge of an experiment of this size and magnitude would be impossible, and even if it was possible, it would be extremely unethical and dangerous. It would involve the deliberate exposure to potentially vulnerable people to something that might hurt them and others. Such an experiment can't and should never be done. One experiment that has been attempted has given very different and inconclusive results. An experiment involving college students who play violent video games for 20 minutes at a time for 3 consecutive days showed an increase in aggression. Video games may cause aggression, but causing aggression and causing violence are two entirely different things. Many things in the world cause aggression, such as sports, concerts, work. There are so many things in the world that cause aggression, but we as a society seem to forget about those things and concentrate on video games as a cause. With this study and others that have been done, the same conclusion has been achieved. There is no definitive answer. The facts are that violent video games can cause an increase in aggression, but it hasn't been proven to cause people to behave violently, nor has it been proven to be the driving factor in influencing violence. It may be the cause of a few deranged people to act violently. It is possible, but still hasn't been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But for society to punish and blame violent video games for the actions of a few is wrong and very ignorant. If violent video games were the cause, then the number of violent acts would be on a greater scale. The number of people who play violent video games all over the world is astronomical. But for people to think that they cause real-life violence is ridiculous. Just by the sheer number of gamers in the world today, violent acts would be happening every day, several times a day, in every corner of the world if video games were the cause. But they don't. All this argument is trying to do is find a reason and or place blame on what people with problems do when there is no real answer. Someday there might be a real definitive answer, but violent video games isn't it? Thank you for your time.